What is up? I'm Marcel and welcome back to the Modern Filmmaker. In this video, we are color grading in Davinci Resolve to work with skin tones, and particularly dark skin tones. If you guys like videos on color grading in Davinci Resolve, definitely make sure to give this video a like. It would really help me out. And make sure to subscribe because we are getting into some craziness this year and it's about to get really good. But without further ado, let's jump into Davinci Resolve and start killing it. So we are here in Davinci Resolve 16 with a new project. And of course, the first thing I'm gonna do is drag in some media here to the media pool. Do not change. And from here, I've just got a clip of my buddy Braden. He's a fellow photographer here in Nashville. And it's almost like a PSA type shot. Have you guys ever seen those commercials where they're like, don't kill the animals, we need the environment, and important stuff that you should be listening to? Yeah, kind of something like that. That's what I'm thinking for this shot. It's kind of got that vibe. And I've got this portion of the clip here where he's talking and he's out of focus here, and the camera pulls back to bring him into focus. And then it keeps pulling back and he kind of fades out of focus. Boom. So now we have our parameters set here and we can right click this clip and create new timeline. Using selected clip, create, bada bing, bada boom. There's our timeline with just the portion of the clip that we wanted. And as a matter of fact, one thing you can also do if you have clip selected and separated, I've showed this in other videos, but I'll go ahead and show it again. If you double click the clip you want to drag in, I don't want the audio from this clip, I just want the video. So here you have the option, and I can just grab this video here, boom, and it comes in without the audio. And now we just have our clip, perfect for a color grading tutorial. And I'm going to go to a portion of the clip where he is extremely in focus. Let's go about right here. Looks good. Go over to the color tab. And from here, I mean, right off the bat, guys, one thing to know about darker skin is it is literally the exact same color as lighter skin. It's just darker. I don't know how that works. It's actually kind of amazing to me that that is science. But black people and Caucasian people are technically the same color tone, but one is just darker. Kind of crazy. Kind of blows my mind. But I would have honestly thought that one was slightly a different color. If I just off my eye, before I started studying this stuff, I would have thought they're different colors, obviously. But really, they're the same exact hue, generally. Just darker people have a darker luminance to their skin tone, which is kind of wild. But there's a few things we'll have to watch out for in that process and working with that. And right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and white balance because I can already tell this shot is a little warm. And it can be kind of hard to tell that now, but if I just move the temperature, let's say down, yeah, about to 390, and then move the tint over a little bit to bring some of that red back. And then if I just deactivate this, Control D, now, by seeing it before, we can really tell how separated the colors were not. And I can maybe bring the temp a little more over to the right, about to 340. Because one thing is, you know, when your white balance is off, you usually can tell you kind of have this general tint over everything. And now it's a little warm. By activating this node, we have much more separation. You can tell that the background sheet, this was actually shot in a studio. So this was a studio background that was kind of this splotchy white to gray black thing, and then his hat was obviously white and black, and then he is brown. His shirt is like a denim blue, and now all that is very clear. So moving forward, we just need to make sure that his skin tone is on and correct, and we can do that with the vector scopes. If I go over here to the parades, go to vector scopes, and then here in the same node, I'm going to make a power window. I'm going to make this power window a circle, and I'm going to go up to the forehead, and then I'm going to make this really small, just so we have a little bit of skin there. And you can do this anywhere where there's, you know, a nice balanced amount of skin. I'm just choosing the forehead because that seems to be a pretty good spot in this picture. And then I'm going to bring the softness all the way down hit the highlight button, and then now in the vector scopes we can see the skin tone line and how our skin lines up to it, or how our power window, how that information just right there lines up to our skin tone line. If you can't see the skin tone line, make sure to go to the settings button in the vector scope. You've got the show skin tone indicator. You've also got the show ×2 zoom. So, sometimes the information here, especially depending on what resolution, what size screen you're working with, can be really small. Just by clicking that button, you can, visualize things a lot better. And also, I turn my vector scope all the way up. It's the brightness. I turn it all the way up just so you can really see what's going on. Boom. So the reason I did this in the white balance node is because we can easily change this while we're here looking at the power window. So if I move the tint a little more over to the green, boom. Now our skin tone is pretty spot on. I don't know how you could get more on than that. From here, it's really just preference if you want more saturation in your skin or less. But as far as on the line, that's what you want to go for. And just in this, whether you're Caucasian, Asian, African American, Indian, this skin tone line, your skin tone should always fall on this line for the most natural look. And I'm going to click off the highlight button. And the next thing I'm noticing about this shot in particular is just that it is very bright, a little blown out in some spots. So I'm going to go back to the parade. I'm going to make a new node with Alt-S, and I'm going to delete our power window from this node just by hitting the reset button in the window tab. Boom. Now we are white balanced and ready to move forward. And another thing with darker skin, which really creates that look that you'll see in really awesome photography with darker skinned people, is how it's almost like the highlights and the shadows lose saturation, to whereas maybe lighter skin will get a little more brown in the darker places and maybe blown out in the highlights. But here you can see that it's pretty much a solid brown tone. And then here you see it almost seems like, there's just a lack of saturation, which is really cool. And we're going to kind of emphasize this, but also help the fact that it's a little blown out, because you do not want it this blown out to where it looks like a hot spot on the face. And that can be easy to get when you're lighting people with darker skin. Also, in the shadows, you can kind of see these almost desaturated, they're almost cooler tones instead of warmer tones in the shadows of his face. And that's also something you want to be kind of aware of when you go to capture or go to color darker skin. Because you may want that in your image or you may not. I do not, so I'm going to try to fix that throughout this tutorial. With this node, I'm just going to add some contrast. So we can dull this out a little bit. And let me try to do this with the shadows. Actually, no. We're pretty much almost clipping at the bottom. So by doing this with the curves, I can make sure that this point here will stay there. Because see, this will crush it if I move this down. If I use the shadows, it will just start throwing things into the black, which may look good just visually right off the bat, kind of just first glance, but this is not what you want in your image. And we've got a lot of crushed blacks around his hat and in his beard, and we could keep a lot of that information and still get that same pop if we do it a different way. So I will move this, I will move the shadow back to 0 and go ahead and do this in the curves. I'll make a point towards the highlights where I like them. I think, let's go about right here. And I will just start bringing this down. And now if we look at the scopes, as I bring this down, it's not shoving everything to 0. It's just smoothly shifting the lower spectrum down. I like that. Much better already. So let's go on to the next node. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and fix these highlights here. I'm going to hit the highlight button, go over to the qualifier, and try to pretty much grab just those highlights. But I want to be careful not to overdo it. Like, I don't want it to be like this. I want it to be kind of far out here because I want it to be able to roll off nicely. With masks, we're pretty much masking now, and we do not want this to be noticeable at all. So, with that pretty far out, feathered pretty good. I can push it a little further in. And then maybe a little denoise and a little blur. And then another thing I'm going to do is make a power window, because I honestly do not want to get his lip. I love where his lip is right now. It's like almost clipping, but not. And it really just, the lighting there adds a lot of detail to the lip. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. I also like the highlights on his hat, so I'm going to leave that also. So I'm going to make a power window. Boom. Drag this up here to these highlights that I'm going for. I will shrink this down. Make sure I got what I need. That'll probably work. Yep. And I'm going to track this. I'm going to go ahead and track it right now before I forget. Love it. Tracking is so easy in Davinci Resolve. It is so simple and so effective and so accurate. That is the biggest thing, just accuracy. I don't feel like I'm wasting a lot of my time. I know I can depend on the tracker. So that looks pretty good. And now we can kind of go to the gain, and I'm going to bring down these highlights. Actually, I might do this with the actual highlight control here and see what that gives us. Oh, yeah, that's nice. That was a good idea. Good idea. See, if we go too far, then now it's kind of getting like a gray thing. It's starting to lack color, and we got to be careful there. So maybe 30, 40, 38, somewhere in there. Maybe even lower. Yeah, maybe 44. Maybe we'll get it a little gray, but then we will bump a little the warmth through the temperature, and then a little tint to the right. Boost that a little bit to add the correct tone back in. And then maybe I'll push this highlight up a little more. Yeah. Now if I turn this off, on, off, on, it's still, you know, the shading is still there, the lighting is still there, but it's far less distracting. It's just less distracting, which is awesome. It looks more natural, and you know, your normal viewer would never notice, but you know, it's funny once you start doing this, and the first time you run into someone that actually knows what they're talking about, and they look at your videos and they're like, well, and they start critiquing, then you feel like an idiot. It doesn't matter how many normal people that don't do videography are like, you're the man. That one pro is like, and you're like, okay, all right, well, all right, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember that forever. All right, so moving forward, sorry, rambling. Moving forward, I'm loving where we're at right now, but there is one more thing I want to do. I kind of want to soften his skin, but I want to soften his skin without softening his beard, without softening his lips, and without softening his hat. How are we going to do that? I'm going to create a new node with Alt-S and come in here to the qualifier. And I'm just going to try to drag this along where his skin is. Boom. And then click highlight. See, we're getting everything pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with this. And now we can make some adjustments here to kind of clean this up. Maybe soften the lows a little bit because it's a little choppy. And the shadows I don't need as bad. And I definitely don't want any of the beard. About there is fine. And then let me move this width up and see what happens. Alright, not too far. I'm going to move the center. Because remember, I don't want the lip in there. I love how the lip is, so I want to keep that. Okay, here we go. Here we go, people. Now we're cooking with gas. I'm an idiot. Let's see, turn these highs up. Sometimes with the qualifier, you just got to be patient, take your time, poke around a little bit until you find that magic spot. Dang it. I want the highlights, but I don't want the lip. Okay, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to denoise, blur, and hit the highlight button. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the midtone detail, MD, on this number 2 tab at the very bottom left. I'm going to decrease this. And you see the difference here? If I crank this up, now he looks like an old man. A lot of midtone detail, high contrast in the midtones, which we are going to sharpen this, and I will show you. But for now, in this node, I really want to smoothen that skin out. Almost give him a younger look, but not too much younger. But I do slightly want to overdo it. So, you know, start at 0, go down until it's like, okay, that looks natural, and then push it a little more. A little more. Yeah. And that looks kind of wild right now. Let me deactivate. Let me deactivate this. And you guys see the difference? I like that. To me, it just, this highlight shadow roll off looks a little hard. The whole shot just looks a little hard. And when somebody's trying to tell a message, like if this was an actual kind of like PSA, or even like a music video or something, and people, you want to draw people in, it's okay to be gritty, but you want to do it as beautifully as you can. You want to make it easy to look at, you know. And let me deactivate this one more time. See, that's just, it's kind of nice. And then I can press Alt S, give me a new node. Also, another thing, if you really want to dictate skin luminance, like if I wanted him to be darker, this would be a good node for me to kind of pull things down on, because I could get his skin a little darker if I wanted, with this node in particular. And I do kind of like that. It kind of gives his face more contrast, because you still have the highlights, but now you have these deeper tones. See? Oh, I love that. Now we click off and it's like, whoa, what's going on? It almost looks crazy. But I do prefer that. I can pump the highlights up a little more, and I'm going to move forward. In this next node, we're pretty much going to do the opposite thing we just did, but I'm going to do it to the entire thing. So I'm going to add midtone detail to this entire image. It's by pushing that midtone detail up. And maybe a little bit of contrast also. And you know what we've done here, which is really cool, is we've sharpened the beard and we've softened the face. But we haven't lost any detail in the glasses, in the lines of his eyes. If I deactivate the last 2 nodes that we've added. See that? And that detail on his lip has stayed the exact same. Oh, this is just beautiful. And his skin, that skin tone now looks more rich and deep. And overall, if I deactivate that and then activate it, it just pops. It pops in a more elegant kind of way to me. It just looked too high contrast. And I don't know. I just didn't. This looks a lot less abrasive, but still really punchy. It still pops out at you. And look at that freaking beard, man. Sick. And another thing you can do, you can add sharpness. I mean, you can add sharpening. I go to the blur. I'll pull this down by 1, maybe 2. Just go to 0.48. But be careful with the sharpening, because it can do you wrong. But now if we deactivate and activate, yeah. And look at his eyes. His eyes don't change at all. They're still just as sharp and as punchy as they were in the beginning. And now if we deactivate all of this, oh my, just come on. Come on. So what else can we do? One more thing I will do is add another node, Alt S. And I'm going to add some more highlights. You can do that, but they're going to be softer highlights. So I'm going to go to the qualifier, hit the highlight button, move the lows and the luminance up to about here, so I get a little bit of shirt, a little bit of his neck, even a little bit of lips. And then soften. Also getting some of the background. Actually, as a matter of fact, I don't want to get the background. I'm going to add a little denoise, add a little blur, go to the power window, make an oval, soften the crap out of it, and move the size down to like here. Yep. Love it. Hit off the highlight button. Now we can go to the primaries bars. And first, I'm going to move the gain up, move the gamma up a little, and then I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go to the mid-tone details, and I'm going to move these down, which gives them a little softer. If I push it up, see that? Which you may want in your image if you're making a super high contrast. Like if we were actually just making a picture, like if I was just making a portrait of this guy and exporting a PNG or something, I would take a far more detailed approach with this. But because it's video, you know, when you play it back, things can get all out of whack. So I'm going to move this mid-tone detail down to just soften that a little bit. And one thing I've been playing with recently too is a little mist. This mist here, seeing if you can mist those to add any kind of, yeah, it's not really necessary. But sometimes if you have really hot highlights, you can mist them and it kind of gives them like a little glow. It works a little better with windows and stuff like that. Now if I deactivate this one, that's a small difference. But I personally do like how the roll-off here is much longer. If I turn this on, see now it's like bright here, a little less bright, 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 dark, 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 dark. So with this off, it's more like highlight, and then it kind of shuts off around here. And this kind of extends those highlights, making my boy Braden here pop a little more than usual, and I believe that oval will probably stay exactly where his face is, but I will go ahead and track it anyway, just in case. You never know. God, I love color grading. It's so sick. It's just like a canvas of unlimited tools that are limited by the program, and your knowledge of the program, but you guys get what I'm saying. So here we've created something really dope. We've taken it from super lame to pretty sick, and I'm proud of it. And I hope you guys are proud of it. And I hope you guys followed along and made something that you're proud of for yourself. And I hope you learned something. And I hope you liked the video. And if you did like the video, definitely make sure to click that like button. And if you didn't like the video, definitely make sure to click the like button anyway. And if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down below. I always reply. Make sure to subscribe. And as always, I am Marcel. This has been The Modern Filmmaker, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace!